A small shortest video on lumbar vertebra. So a lumbar vertebra, there are 5 lumbar vertebrae present in our body, in which 4 are typical, first 4 are typical and the fifth one is atypical. So today we are going to see the parts of a typical vertebra. So before getting to know about the anatomical position of the lumbar vertebra, first we are going to see the parts of the lumbar vertebra. A lumbar vertebra mainly has a body and spinous processes. This is the superior view of the lumbar vertebra. So this thing which you see here, this one is the body. This is the body of lumbar vertebra. This is a body of vertebra. See here, this is the body. Lumbar vertebra, and if they give it to you during the osteology viva, and you can find it by various identification points. The identification point for lumbar vertebra would be that the body of the lumbar vertebra would be in kidney shaped. See, this looks like a kidney. This looks like a kidney. Whereas if you see a thoracic vertebra, the body would be in heart shape. So this is one of the identification points for a lumbar vertebra. So this is the superior view of the lumbar vertebra. This is the posterior view of the lumbar vertebra. The posterior view of the lumbar vertebra consists of many processes. This thing you see, the projection like things, these things are processes. There are 7 processes in lumbar vertebra. There are 7 processes in lumbar vertebra. The first one which we would see is the transverse process. So transverse process, if you see it from the superior aspect, you see these two outside projecting like processes, right? These are the transverse processes. These are the transverse processes. There are 2 transverse processes in a lumbar vertebra. The transverse process gives attachment to the lateral and medial arcuate ligament. It gives attachment to the lateral and medial arcuate ligament, and one second. When you keep 2 lumbar vertebrae, one second, sorry. When you keep 2 lumbar vertebrae upon each other, you'll find that when you keep 2 lumbar vertebrae upon each other, it'll be looking like this. So I'll keep it like this for a second to explain. So the muscle attachment of the transverse process, there are 2 types of muscle attachment. One is the medial muscle attachment and lateral muscle attachment in the transverse process. This is the transverse process. This is the transverse process of the upper lumbar vertebra. This is the transverse process of the lower lumbar vertebra. So here if you see muscle attachment from here to here, that is medial to the lumbar vertebra, there will be attachment of psoas major muscle attachment, and to the lateral there will be attachment of quadratus lumbar muscle. So there will be 2 muscle attachments in the transverse process of 2 consecutive vertebrae, that will be medially psoas major and laterally quadratus lumborum. So now if you see the transverse process, inferiorly there will be a small projection. See here, there's a small projection here. If you see this, no, there's a small projection. This projection is known as accessory process. The accessory process is present inferiorly to the transverse process. It's here. So this is superior. If it's superiorly, it looks like this. The transverse process is here. Go here, you will find a small process here known as the accessory process. This is also a key point to find out which vertebra is it, because accessory process is only present in the lumbar vertebra and not in any other vertebrae. So the next processes which we are going to see is the four articular processes. The four articular processes forms the joints with the adjacent vertebrae. Like if I take this and keep it like this, so you see, one second. First, I will say what are the articular processes in the lumbar. You see the two uply projecting this and this. Below, if you see this and this, these four are known as the articular processes of the lumbar vertebra. So there are two superior articular processes and two inferior articular processes. So these articular processes helps in the articulation or formation of joints between two adjacent lumbar vertebra. See, the joint is formed by the inferior articular process of the upper lumbar vertebra with the two superior articular processes of the lower lumbar vertebra. It forms a joint. Next process which you are going to see, the last process which you are going to see is the spinous process. You see here the one which protrudes outside towards posteriorly. This is known as the spinous process. The spinous process is present centrally. So there are seven processes present in a vertebra, the lumbar vertebra, that are the transverse process 1 and 2, and four articular processes, that is the two superior articular process and two inferior articular process. 4 plus 2 makes them 6, and the seventh one is the spinous process, which is present centrally. So when you take a process, you will find a small depression, the small smooth depression which you see here, right? This the see, take this, you'll find here this. These depressions are known as facets. Facets are present in articular processes. This articular, this no see no, these two are articular processes, right? These four are articular processes, and faces are only present in the articular processes. They are smooth for articulation. Next, which we will see is the pedicel. You might wonder what a pedicel is. A pedicel is a part of vertebra which connects the body with the process. So, what is the body? This is the body, the thing which you see here is the body of the lumbar vertebra, and which you see here, the posterior, everything, this is the processes. So, this part is known as the pedicel, which connects the body of vertebra to the processes. This part is known as the pedicel. Lamina. What is a lamina? A lamina is a part of a vertebra which connects the transverse process and the spinous process. You see here, no, this thing is known as the lamina. This thing is known as the lamina. Lamina provides attachment for the ligamentum flava. So they might ask about the ligament attachment of ligament in the lamina. So it will be ligamentum flava. So as now we know the basic general parts of a lumbar vertebra, now we are going to see the anatomical position of this lumbar vertebra. For to know the anatomical position of a lumbar vertebra, you are supposed to catch the lumbar vertebra by your thumb and the index finger. You should catch the spinous process. The body should face anteriorly and these processes should face posteriorly. You should catch it like this. This is the anatomic position of the lumbar vertebra. Now you might ask, how will I know which is the superior surface and which is the inferior surface? So to identify which one is the superior surface and an inferior surface, you have to know about something called as superior vertebral notch and inferior vertebral notch. What is the superior vertebral notch? When you catch the vertebra like this, you see two small depressions. One second. When you catch the vertebra like this, you see two depressions. You see one depression here and you see one fossa here. This notch here. There is a notch-like structure here and a notch-like structure here. This notch is known as superior vertebral notch, and this notch is known as the inferior vertebral notch. The superior vertebral notch is shallow. It's not deep, while the inferior vertebral notch is deep. So this is how you will find out the which would be the superior and the which would be the inferior surface of the vertebra, the lumbar vertebra. So the superior should always face the upper side, while the inferior lumbar vertebra should face towards downwards. So this is the anatomical position of the vertebra. That's all.